As Barry approaches, New Orleans residents debate evacuation. New Orleans AP, you go or stay? It is a question people in and around New Orleans ask themselves every time a threatening storm lurks in the Gulf. A major hurricane like Katrina, which devastated the area in 2005 when levees failed, and now, which forecasters said was unlikely to become a ferocious hurricane but could still bring historic levels of rain and devastating floods. The dilemma is one that confronts people anywhere, but New Orleans has a unique set of circumstances. It's particularly susceptible to hurricanes and flooding, and, as underscored by Katrina 14 years ago, many of its people are poor. They don't have the Many remember the heartaches and hardships that befell victims of Katrina, whether they fled or rode it out, the deplorable conditions of the overcrowded Superdome that served as an inadequate shelter. And the harrowing Maria Thomas, a self-described housewife and soprano with the symphony chorus of New Orleans, who lives in the suburb of Metairie with her wife, a local chef, is among those who recall the trauma that accompanied the decision to evacuate during Katrina. Back in 2005, the couple fled to the house of Thomas, now mother-in-law, north of Lake Pontchartrain, only to have a tree fall into it. But staying wouldn't have prior. Thomas said she will evacuate again this time, but only because she has multiple sclerosis and can't risk being without air conditioning in the event of a prolonged power outage. Herman Grady, 72, also evacuated during Katrina. This time, the city has not called for a mandatory evacuation as happened during Katrina. Mayor LaToya Nadia Jenkins said she has stocked up on supplies she'll need if she stays, and gassed up the car in case she decides to go. The reality for many people here is that the choice of staying or going is not really theirs to make. New Orleans was my. This story has been edited to correct the spelling of Metairie. Associated Press reporter Sarah Blake Morgan contributed to this report.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.